Namaste yogis, welcome back. One more practice session. Today I'm going to focus on transitions. But before we start, I think Ranjini, as always, has something. She's at short notice. She was requested to sing something about Ganesha. So Ranjini, take it away, please.
Om. 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 Mudakarat modakam sada vimukti sadhakam kaladharavatam sakam vilasi lokarakshakam anayakaikanayakam vinashite bhadaityakam natashuභाशुनाशकं नमामि तं विनायकं नमामि तं विनायकम्.
Thank you, Rajni. That was divine as always. So I'd request everyone to settle down on your mats, sit wherever is comfortable, Vajrasana cross-legged. And today we're going to focus on transitions. And I can see young Mr. Thomas Kleefel has joined us, Whale Tom. So welcome back, Thomas. And even as you sit, can you notice how you transition from the hurly-burly of your day, whatever crazy you were handling through the day, maybe your work, maybe your home, maybe your kids, to this little zone where you've set aside your time and space for yourself, for your practice. And see the transition, where earlier you were dealing with the external and now dealing with the internal. So just notice that itself is a transition. And then see if you can transition from your mental chatter to your breath. And these are probably the most difficult transitions. The transitions we do on the mat, the physical transitions from one asana to the other, may not be as difficult as the mind to breath and breath to nothingness transitions that we sometimes need to do. And these are the most important transitions because these are the transitions that get you in touch with yourself. Everything else, the dealing with the external, you don't realize yourself. You're just reacting. But when you make these transitions, you interact with the rest of the world from a position of authenticity, from a position of power, rather than just getting buffeted by the forces around you. And that's where I think the true power of yoga is. The asanas are just a mirror, just a reflection of the work you need to do inside of yourself. So with that, I will request you to gently open your eyes, interlace your fingers, inhale all the way up to the top, stretch. Just a quick spinal warm up. Exhale, release your palms behind you, interlace your fingers behind you, squeeze your shoulder blades in, let your knuckles drop down to the mat, take your chin up, heart up to a nice little reverse or back bend. Slowly release, interlace your fingers in front of you and imagine someone's pulling your arms out of your shoulder blades, round your back, tuck your chin in towards your chest. Keep pulling your navel in towards your spine, completely round your back. You should feel that stretch on the top of your back, on the middle of your back, maybe even lower back. across your shoulders and slowly release. Stick your right palm down on the mat next to you. Inhale, take your left arm up, stretch and across. Keep pushing your left hip into your left heel. And then if you want, circle your heart up towards the ceiling. Slowly release, reverse to the other side. Left palm down on the mat. Inhale, right palm up. Keep reaching and exhale over to the other side. Push your right hip down into the mat more and more. Then if you want, circle your heart up towards the ceiling. Don't lift your right hip off the mat or your hip. Slowly release. Get your left palm outside right knee, right palm behind you. Inhale, spine tall. Exhale, twist. And release the other side, right outside left knee, left palm behind you. Inhale, spine tall. Exhale, twist. And let it go. Release your ankles from underneath of you. Cross your ankles. If you can get up without support, great. If you can't, use support. Come up to standing. Move to the top of your mat. Keep your feet hip width apart. Your heels behind your second and third toes. Push down equally into all four corners of your feet. Pull up your kneecaps. Point your tailbone down. Increase the length of your spine. Gently pull your navel in towards your spine, gently. So it's not like sucking your breath in. Relax your shoulders. Chin parallel to the floor. Bring your palms in front of your heart. Set your intentions for your practice. So the intention is transitions. And the strange part is that most yogis talk of asanas, the endpoints, and they think that's where all the action is. How well you execute an asana, how well you kind of hold it. But equally, as most of you know, unfortunately, I don't see all of you because you keep your cameras off, but the more important work is in the transition of moving from one asana to the other. Because that's where you begin to engage different sets of muscles. You begin to manage your breath to transition from one endpoint to another endpoint. Sometimes it can be tricky. And transitions really expose your weaknesses and vulnerabilities as they highlight your strengths too sometimes. So while once you're in a pose, you can kind of fake it or you can ease into it more gently. When you're doing your transitions, you're as good as exposed. If you can't get your foot all the way forward, you'll know it. You'll know your body has a limitation. And then the idea is, do you get frustrated or do you work to improve yourself or do you work to accept your limitations? Each of those things become important in transitions. So inhale, we'll just do slow transitions first so that you know what is moving, what is working, what needs more work. So inhale, circle your arms real slowly, all the way up. Reach up, keep your palms parallel to one another, and keep reaching up. And the way to reach up, this sounds like a pose, but you keep transitioning even within the pose. You push your feet even more firmly into the mat. That gives you the energy to reach up even more. And now I'm going to ask you to exhale and swan dive all the way forward. Go real slow. When you're swan diving forward, understand where your core needs to start engaging. So at some point, when you're like almost horizontal, your core needs to start engaging. And at some point, your core will need to release so that you can pull yourselves in towards your knees even more. Notice through your transition, do you need to bend your knees and then straighten your knees again? Or do you manage to get into your forward fold with straight knees straight away? Hold on to the backs of your calves and then see where your core is right now. Are you kind of still clenching your core or letting it go, feeling the softness to pull into your forward fold? Inhale, come up halfway. Reach your heart forward. Keep your chin up. Totally, you need to engage your core here. And then if I ask you to push your hips slightly forward so they're over your heels, you need to engage your core even more because you're just worsening the cantilever effect. You're reaching your palms down. Your shoulder blades are kind of smoothly slipping over your ribs. Exhale, bend your knees, fingertips on either side. This is the most common transition. Get your right foot all the way back. Notice how you got your right foot all the way back. Did you keep your right knee bent, touched your toes down, and then drag them back? Or did you manage to just get it all at one shot? Initially, when you're practicing, sometimes I've noticed people, they get their foot just about a little back and then they kind of literally walk it back, which is fine. But the aim is to finally hit that graceful spot where you just take your right foot all the way back, your heel directly above your toes, your right knee straight. Get your right palm next to your left foot. Inhale, circle your left arm all the way up. Keep pushing your hips down. That's another transition point. Sometimes your hips remain up and then you talk them down. So how quickly through your transition can you transition to the final asana? Slowly release, left palm all the way down. Get your left foot all the way back next to your right foot. Hold plank. So when you do that, how high do you need to take your hips? Can you leave your hips in line with your shoulders so that you really need to engage your core to get your left leg back? Because if you take your hips up, you don't need to engage your core because there's just enough space for your left leg to move back. Push down into your palms so that you feel your shoulders moving up towards the ceiling. Then drop your knees down, knees, chest, chin. Take your hips slightly back. Drop your chest down between your palms and your chin on the mat. Knees, chest, chin. Notice here whether you go down all the way flat and then pull your knees in towards your palms, or do you manage to keep your knees where they are steady and just get into this little lower back bend. Slowly release all the way to the mat. Push the mat forward with your palms. Slowly, very slowly come up to baby cobra. See where you need to start engaging. Sometimes you need to start engaging with your pecs and your upper back. Then you start transferring the pressure to your middle back. Then you start taking it into your lower back and your core. So because we're transitioning slowly today, you'll notice which muscles you need to engage, and then maybe once you're in the pose, you can afford to release those muscles. So right now, when you came up, you had to engage your core. Now see if you can release your abs, not your core, your abs. See if you can breathe a little more easily. So when you inhale, actually try to expand your belly. And when you exhale, pull your navel in towards your spine. Slowly release all the way down to the mat. Feel that relief because you're giving up on so much of muscular engagement in your shoulders and in your core. And then tuck your toes in. Now, transitioning to down dog, wait. Are you going to transition through your knees? or with your knees straight. Decide that. Whatever you decide, notice how you transition. So I'll request Ranjini to do the knees down on the mat. So push up through your knees and then take your hips up and back and then peel your knees off the mat. So obviously this is the easier version. You don't need as much core engagement because you shortened the fulcrum distance. But it's a better way to be aware of which muscles you need to engage. Your down dog is a lovely pose to rest in, but within the pose, can you find your transitions? Can you spread your fingers? Can you externally rotate your arms and the shoulders? So notice what I'm doing. I'm actually asking you to stay in a pose, but move what you need to move to improve the pose. So even though you seem like you're static in a pose, there are a million and one things you can do to transition from a poorly held pose, or if I may say a misaligned pose, and I'm not judging here, to a better aligned pose. Pull your navel in towards your spine. Extend your tailbone up and back. Release your heels down towards the mat. Widen the distance between your heels so that your heels line up behind your second and third toes. Straighten your knees. When you're ready, look forward between your palms. Now, this is the trickiest transition. I'm going to ask you to get your right foot all the way forward between your palms. Now, Ranjini will not be able to, so I'm suggesting here that she will not be able to get her foot all the way forward. So we end up doing what most beginners do, get the foot somewhere halfway in between and end up in a little bit of an awkward plank with the foot halfway to your palms. Yep. And now, obviously, you're going to feel stuck. So transfer your weight all the way onto your left palm. So your right hip can rise a little bit. Then use your right palm behind your right ankle and encourage your foot all the way forward. You've got the space. So there, you noticed what Ranjini did. She pushed all the weight onto her left palm. She raised her right shoulder, her right hip, got the space to get the foot all the way forward. Also, what matters is she was able to engage the right side of her core to get the foot all the way forward. Stay with your hips low, left knee straight, left heel over left toes. Keep taking your heart forward. Push your left palm into the mat. Inhale, circle your right palm all the way up. Reach up, reach across. Now, sometimes when you do this transition, you'll find your left knee bending. So you've got to transition back. So push that knee up. Slowly release your right palm down. And see if you can get your left foot all the way forward. Now do it really slowly. I know that, the easiest way is to get your left foot all the way forward quickly, but really slowly. Look what you need to engage to get that foot off the mat first. So don't drag your toes, get it off. And then you really got to clench your core. You really got to engage all your leg muscles and then get the foot all the way forward. There you go. Did you notice how much Ranjini had to kind of really get it into the core to get it forward? And that's why I decided to do transitions today, because they're not easy. And when we do them fast, when we end up doing a cardio, we just lose sight of what is involved. Hips over heels, knees straight, and full forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, full forward fold to the extent you can. So Ranjani is dealing with a lower back injury. If she doesn't do the whole thing, and if she keeps her knees bent, she's just honoring her injuries. I'm just so grateful she's still managing to demonstrate. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up, but really, really, really slowly. And then release, palms in front of your heart. Close your eyes, get into your breath. So if you notice, we did this round really slowly. Let's pick up the speed a little more and see if you lose sight of what it takes to transition. You'll not even notice your transitions once you move fast. So when you're ready, inhale, circle your arms all the way up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, bend your knees, fingertips on either side. Get your left foot all the way back. There. We did a lot of transitions. You didn't feel it as much. You may not have been perfect, but you don't realize how much you need to use various muscles. When you're ready, drop your left knee down. Now we go back to a slow transition. We'll do the fast one on the other side. Walk your left knee as far back as possible, and then inhale your arms up and back, but really slowly. So we're moving into Anjaneyasana, but really slowly. You realize you need to first engage your core, reach up, and then as you start reaching back, you need to engage your lower back muscles, and you've got to release your core. Ranjani may not be able to do a very deep back bend because of her lower back issues. She's the only one on the screen today. But you take it to where you can, slowly, using full awareness of your transition. Exhale, bring your palms all the way forward on either side of your front foot. Pick up your back knee, front foot all the way back, next to your left foot into plank. Knees, chest, chin, or Chaturanga, yogi's choice. Chaturanga is the deadliest transition. You've got to engage a lot more than your core. You've got to engage biceps, triceps, pecs, upper back muscles, and then all the way down. Inhale, Cobra. All 10 toes on the mat to the best Cobra you can. So Ranjani might stop at baby Cobra. You guys go ahead into full Cobra. Slowly all the way down. This time, try knee straight, hips up and back, down dog. And notice the difference in the transition. If you can't manage it, go ahead, put your knees down and transition to down dog. If you can, keep your knees straight and transition to down dog. So yeah, you need to push yourself up into Chaturanga and then hips up and back, down dog. Look forward, get your left foot all the way forward between your palms as quickly as you can. And you notice your left foot, because of the momentum, will come forward a little further than the last time. Drop your right knee down. Inhale, circle your arms up and back very quickly, Anjaneyasana. Keep dropping your hips down and forward. So notice the transition now to Anjaneyasana compared to last time where you went really slowly. And that's another beauty. No matter how you do it, you do your transition slowly or fast, you're always working something. When you do it fast, you're working your heart a little more. When you do them slowly, you're really saying hello to a lot of your muscles. Exhale, release your palms on either side of your front foot, back foot all the way forward, deep forward fold. Try to keep your knees straight, hips over your heels. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up. And release. Namaste in front of your heart. So you'll notice that whether it's quick transitions or slow transitions, if you remain aware of your breath, you will always make your transitions easier to achieve. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up, and this time take them slightly back if you can. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, bend your knees, fingertips on either side. Get your right foot all the way back. Now I'm going to ask you to transition to Warrior Two. Now, unless your hips are low already, unless your back knee is straight, unless you're already engaging your core, you'll find the transition really difficult. So if you're a beginner, what you'll end up doing is get your right heel down and then perpendicular your feet. So go ahead, do that. Get your right heel down, keep your feet perpendicular, and then you realize that you've got to kind of spring up and open out to Warrior Two. All of you know what Warrior Two is. You will find you help yourself in the transition if you start pushing the outer edge of your right foot into the mat. So Ranjini, can you just exaggerate that movement? And yeah, lovely. So you notice how that right hip kind of starts feeling the pull towards the right. So the minute you start pushing your outer edge of your right foot in, you get that right hip moving towards the right. That kind of sets up that momentum for opening out into Warrior Two. So go ahead, open out into Warrior Two. Notice how that core starts engaging. You need to start getting into your laterals in the core to get into your Warrior Two. Now, once you get into Warrior Two, notice whether your hips are first high and then you kind of set them down and then you start pushing your left hip down towards your left ankle, or you end up with your left thigh already parallel to the floor, so you don't have to do much. Then notice whether you've got to then move your left knee outwards so that it aligns with your second and third toes, or you're already there. Have you started bending your right knee, or do you need to straighten it now, or was it already straight to start with? Is your spine growing tall? Is your spine leaning forward or back? If it is, correct your own posture. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. Transition to reverse warrior. The best you can. Slowly take your time. Inhale, transition back to Warrior Two. And sometimes it makes sense to break up your transitions so you don't go very deep into the next pose, especially if these poses tend to be very challenging. So intense side stretch, Uttita Parsva Konasana, can be very intense. I mean, the name intense is there in the pose's name. So get your left forearm on your left thigh. So you're assisting your transition. Turn your right palm up and across. So what you're doing is warming up that right side of your body. And the more you reach through your right fingertips, the more you feel the stretch on the right side. You're also warming up your left side of your torso to contract. Then see if you can transition to a deeper pose. So reach your left palms down to your left ankle. May never reach, so hold on to your left calf and then slowly slide it down. But when you do that, if your right shoulder is tipping forward, you're losing the plot. Keep pushing that right shoulder back as much as you can. Inhale, come up, warrior two. This simple coming up, did you notice how Ranjani raised her hips a little bit, came up, and then settled them down again? So go back to intense side stretch all the way down, and now pay attention to your hips. See if you can come up without ever moving your hips higher. Keep them where they are and just unfold up to warrior two. Good. Windmill your arms around. Get your left foot all the way back and up. This is another difficult transition where you start getting into your core. Keep taking your left foot higher, as high as it'll go. Keeping that left foot up, or no, get your left knee to your chest or your armpit, to your left armpit. But keep pushing your hips back and up. Stay in down dog. What I'm teaching you is the transition to get your left foot all the way forward. Now transition to plank, but keep your knee as close to your chest as possible. Don't let that knee drop out. So you're constantly engaging your core. Now, if you want, hop your right foot slightly forward so you get a little more space, and take your hips even higher. Take your hips even higher and see if you can now get your left foot all the way forward between your palms. Get your right foot all the way forward. Deep forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle all the way up. Palms together in front of your heart. Stay with your breaths. That left foot all the way forward tends to be the most difficult transition. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up. Take your palms a little behind, push your hips forward into a slight back bend. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, bend your knees, fingertips on either side. Get your left foot all the way back. Notice how Ranjani eases into the transition. So hips go down, left knee goes straight. Drop your left heel down. Try and keep your left knee straight. Perpendicular your feet, heel to arch alignment. And once again, push down into the outer edge of the left foot. Notice how that starts pulling onto your left hip. Circle up, warrior two. Notice how you need to start engaging your laterals. How you need to start engaging your glute, your right hammies. Keep pushing your right hip down and forward towards your right ankle. Left knee straight. Drop your left palm down, right palm up. Reverse your warrior. But keep pushing your right hip down and forward even more. So don't lose the pose when you do the transition. And this, you notice, is a nice little dance between your pose and your transition. Inhale, come back, warrior two. Exhale, right forearm on right thigh, turn your left palm up, and intense side stretch. Well, not so intense right now. As you push down into the outer edge of your left foot, take your left fingertips up and across. And then reach your right palm down to your right calf, slide it all the way down to your ankle to the best you can. But keep taking your left shoulder back. When you're ready, windmill your way back to warrior two. Notice if you had raised your hips up and come back down. If you want, go back once again. So go back into intense side stretch. Notice where your right hip is. Keep it there. Try not to move it. Inhale, warrior two. Windmill your arms around. Right foot back and up. Right knee to chest, but keep your down dog. Pull the knee in towards the chest more and more. Keeping that same distance between your knee and chest. Inhale, plank. And see if you can get your right foot all the way forward. Keep your back knee straight. Left foot all the way forward, deep forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle your way all the way up. Palms together in front of your heart. Close your eyes. Okay, I know I should be transitioning to yin, but there is one crazy transition. I think we should do a little difficult transition as well. So, inhale, circle your arms all the way up, stay vertical. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, bend your knees, take your right foot all the way back. Okay, I'm going to ask you to transition to high lunge. Now notice how you move. Do you bend your back knee? Can you keep your hips as low as they are right now? Or do you need to rise your hips up, reach your high lunge, and then drop your hips down again? Do you teeter-tatter all the way with your arms seesawing on either side and then go up? Or can you gracefully just get your arms all the way up? Just notice the changes and notice how much pressure you need to get into your glutes, your hammies, your quads, and your core. So a lot of action going on. And the worst part is you're taking your arms above your head. So it's always a cardio. The minute you take your arms above your head, makes everything just go 10 times more difficult. So when you're ready, before you begin your transition, what are you pushing down into? Are you pushing down into your front foot? Are you pushing down into the balls of your right foot? Are you removing the pressure from your palms? Are you collecting it in your core? Because you know you've got to rise. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up to high lunge. Keeping your hips approximately where they are, if you can. Now I'm going to ask you to transition to warrior three. So reach your arms forward parallel to the floor. Keep reaching forward with your palms and slowly release your right foot off the mat. And notice how you transition. Maybe you need to hop your right foot on the mat forward before you can lift off. Maybe you can lift off right away. Hold it in your core. Reach forward through your fingertips. Get your shoulders just slightly down so that it's a straight line between your fingertips and your toes. Transition back to high lunge. Windmill your palms all the way down. Left foot back and up. Bend your left knee, bend your left knee, get your left heel close to your left hip. And then keep taking your left knee up towards the sky. Now see if you can transition to opening your left hip above your right hip. Opening the knee up towards the sky. Keeping your left shoulder in line with your right shoulder. Now see if you can circle sweep your left foot all the way forward between your palms. Back foot all the way forward, deep forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up. Palms together in front of your heart. Namaste. Stay with your breath. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up and slightly back. Push your hips forward, heart up towards the sky. Come back to vertical. Exhale, release all the way down to the mat. Forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, bend your knees, fingertips on either side. Get your left foot all the way back. Stay on the balls of your left foot. First, begin by pushing down into your palms and your feet. Then see if you can start engaging your core. Release your palms up to high lunge. Exhale your arms parallel to the floor. Transition to warrior 3 on the inhale. Notice if you bend your foot, your knee, while moving to warrior 3. Keep taking your back heel further back towards the wall behind. Flex your ankle, toes pointing down. Slowly transition back to high lunge. Windmill your palms down. Back foot all the way forward, deep forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle all the way up. And release all the way down, forward fold. We forgot the other side. So we'll just do it. Okay, so here is another transition. Jumping back to down dog. See if you can bend your knees, get your palms flat on the mat, and jump back to down dog. You really have to engage your core, lift your feet just above the mat, float them all the way back, land with your elbows soft, straighten your knees, and keep pushing your hips up and back. Fairly complicated, but rather than me describing it, see how it feels. If you can't do it, walk back to down dog. Take your right leg up. Reach up, reach back, bend your right knee, right heel to hip, right knee up towards the ceiling as much as you can. Rotate your right knee up towards the ceiling more and more and more. Circle sweep your right foot all the way forward between your palms. Back foot all the way forward, deep forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle all the way up. And release to Namaste. Stay with your breath. And then release all the way down to the mat. Since so many of you have lower back and leg injuries, let's cool it down with some yin. And I'm going to kind of talk you into transitioning from an active yang to a more passive yin. So lie down completely. Bend your knees, keep your feet close to your hips on the mat. And then cross your right knee over your left knee. Your knees as close to each other as possible. Get your arms to the side, perpendicular to your torso. On the floor, palms facing down. Now, first drop your knees over to the right, both of them. And then pick them up, drop them over to the left. So notice what's moving inside your core. Notice how even your shoulder has to keep adapting to this shift. Then move it back to the right. And move it back to the left. Keep going deeper with each right and left. One more right. One more left. And now stay here on the left. With your breath. With yin, you now have to transition from the monkey mind to a calm mind. And your mind will have all kinds of things to tell you. This is too painful. Please get out of this pose. Don't listen to him. Move. And then there's another part of you which says, no, it's okay. And scientists are actually now figuring out that this is part of our consciousness, this ability to talk to ourselves. Who are you talking to? So, this ability to magically split ourselves into two. One person does the chatting, one person does the listening, and you wonder which one of these two is the real you. If you allow yourself enough time and enough breath, maybe you will luckily coalesce into one entity. Maybe then you'll find your peace. Slowly transition to the right and hold on the right for some time. If you notice, when you're doing the first side in a vinyasa flow, it always feels a lot more difficult. It's partly because you don't know what poses are coming after what poses. So the transitions are always a little scary. You don't know what I'm going to throw at you. The second side is always easier because you know exactly what's coming. So you prepared your muscles for the transition. You kind of mentally know what you need to do to get there. The same is true with life. When you're unprepared and you don't know what life is throwing at you, you find transitions very painful. But you know what life is throwing at you, transitions become a lot easier. But there's another way of looking at it. You can just turn it around on its head and say, I will be good with whatever life throws at me. So in a way, you're literally telling yourself, I'm prepared for whatever comes. And you find that with making that one mental transition, all other transitions become so much easier. Just that little decision that, I'll take it in my stride. I'll accept whatever comes without resistance, which is what you're doing now in your yin practice. You're accepting your pose without resistance. Slowly release back to Shavasana. Keep your arms next to you. Feel the rebound. When you're ready, gently bend your knees in again. This time, cross your left knee over your right knee. Keep your knees as close together as possible and start with dropping both your knees over to the right. And then over to the left. Trying to go deeper with each time. Keep your arms to the side, perpendicular, palms facing down. Once more to the right. Notice with the transitions how your pelvis moves, how your shoulders adjust, how your spine moves. Come back to the left, how your core is kind of handling all of this, how the pressure on the foot that's on the floor changes, how that foot kind of helps. Once more to the right. Once more to the left. And go back to your right, and this time we shall hold. Staying with your breath. Did you notice how defining your transitions with the two poses at the end, the whole thing becomes a set? And if you really get into your flow, the difference between a pose and a transition starts to disappear. I gave you a hint about this when I said even within your pose, you can keep transitioning. And if you transition really slowly, each frame of your transition ends up feeling like a pose. And that's when you realize that this whole distinction between a pose and a transition is very arbitrary. It's in your head. So, like, I'll be telling you now, I'll be doing a transition myself in my life. If I think of it as a transition, it feels like a transition. If I tell myself it's just another pose, that's the way it's going to feel. So ultimately, it's how you manage your thoughts that matters. And where better to practice managing your thoughts than either your meditation or your yin practice or even your yang practice. Slowly pull back to the center and over to the other side. Checking in with yourself, starting from the physical body, moving to your thoughts, then your breath. When you're ready, slowly transition into Shavasana. Your final Shavasana. Completely let it go. Get your arms by your side, palms facing up. Relax everything, even your tongue, eyeballs, throat. See if your breath becomes easier. When you're ready, take a nice long deep breath in. Hold your breath for a bit and start moving your fingers and toes. And then as you slowly exhale, bring your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a nice little squeeze. You're transitioning back into full awareness. And gently rock from side to side. Roll over to your right, turn your face down, blink your eyes open. Come up to seated with palms in front of your heart. Give yourself the gratitude, being here, being present with your practice, trying to understand transitions. And transitions are a part of everyone's life. We transition into life, we transition out of life. And we think that when we transition into life, we are blissfully unaware. And for some strange reason, we are fearful of transitioning out of life. And as I always say, acceptance is the key. If you're willing to accept transitions, they become easier. Interlace your fingers, inhale, one last stretch all the way up. Stick around after I finish the recording. I have a little announcement for all of you and release. Thank you, yogis.